Hello. I don't know if this is actually broadcasting simultaneously on Facebook. I am playing with something totally new for me. I've definitely been a participant um, StreamYard before. So anyway, I might just be talking to the camera and then I'll upload it later. But this was pretty cool. It's easy to set up. My name is Nakaya, and I recorded a longer video today uh, out of the ocean. It was so wonderful. So when I spend a day by the water like that, and I don't actually often spend the day, I'll spend anywhere from, I don't know, 30 minutes to a couple hours, but my mind just, it's like, it's definitely medicine for my head. It's just fantastic. And I went to a farmer's market earlier today in a different city. So whenever I step out of the place that I spend most of my time in, my mind starts working in different ways. That's one of the reasons why we love traveling. People's perspective changes, even if you're traveling to a neighboring city or a neighboring state. Definitely, the long distance travel is incredibly exciting, and for some people, so much more of a deep experience. But even if you just travel out of your city for the day, things feel different in different places, even if it's the place right next door. So I have been thinking a lot about a lot of different things. There's a lot going on in my life. One of the things that I am working on with myself and the business that I'm building is showing up on social media platforms. I have not been a fan of social media for a very long time for obvious reasons, for all of the obvious reasons that anyone has issue with social media. Those have been things that I've struggled with, and I have removed myself from social media off and on over the years, and every time I step away, it feels amazing. I have chosen to build one of my businesses online. It's just a fantastic business structure, and I love it. And it requires me, because of how I'm choosing to build it, to participate in these platforms. So whenever we step into a business, whether it's a physical brick and mortar or a virtual or whatever is on the spectrum with those things, we are going to be required to show up differently. I really, really hope my microphone is working. I have no idea what the sound is like. No idea. So it would really upset me if the microphone isn't working. But anytime we decide to be responsible for our income, for the creation of our income, we once we make the decision and move in that direction, we are also making the decision to commit to changing a lot about how we show up. And that is terrifying. I need little cards that can say my curse words for me. uh, it's terrifying, and it stops a lot of people. And for those people that don't get completely stopped by it, there could be a lot of start and stopping in your business experience, whether it's in person or online. I can think of so many healing arts practitioners that I worked with back in the first 10 years of my professional life who were phenomenal at what they did. Such a gift. But struggled so hard to show up consistently for the work because it meant putting ourselves out there. There was a lot of risk involved. Money in the beginning of most businesses is not consistent. So there were all of these struggle points. And the people who make it through probably have a lot of different tools. So your tools you're gonna use them differently. You're gonna rely on different things to get you through. But what we all do is we push through it. Some people just put their heads down and push through it, and some people, get into a lot of like self-examination and again, whatever is on that spectrum. So I want to remind everyone who has decided to create a new business or reframe the business that you've been in or the work that you've been doing. I want to remind you that part of what we're doing when we show up in this way is that we are agreeing to change ourselves. We're agreeing to change ourselves. We're going to be doing things differently. We're going to be doing things that make us uncomfortable. And for some of us, that's going to be physical things, like maybe putting money towards the business rather than putting money towards whatever else it is we're used to putting money towards for a period of time. It may mean making no money for a period of time. So those are like material, physical things. It may be emotional, social, psychological things, so less tangible things. But a lot of people have trouble showing up on camera. And that's a big part of it. Like, people like the posts. Posts are great for scrolling, but it's important to be able to interact with the folks that we're talking to. And being on camera is a way, like, it's a way of bringing out expression that we cannot communicate no matter how beautifully something's written or how beautiful the design of a post is created. The camera is an incredibly important tool in getting your message out there, especially if part of what you are selling or marketing is you. If you are a coach, a mentor, if you're, lifestyle branding, if your business is about coming to work with me, we want to know what that feels like. We want to get a sense of what that feels like. Like, obviously, there's limitations even with the camera. Obviously, that personal, like physical, in-person connection is going to give us a whole bunch of other information. However, the camera does a really great job, So I wanted to talk about just a couple of things that you can do to start wrapping your mind or whatever you need to wrap around getting more social on social media. And I was very much inspired recently by a creator. She's a businesswoman. I found her on YouTube. I'm not quite sure like how the algorithm put us together, although I have some ideas. But it was still like, it was such a breath of fresh air. And I only remember her first name, so I will share her information maybe in the comments once I figure out how to get this thing up on Facebook. But she has multiple businesses, which really spoke to me because I've been struggling with this idea of only being able to focus on one thing. All of my working life, from the moment that I stepped into work for myself, and actually that's not true because all of my working life, I've had a couple different things going on at the same time. Wasn't necessarily successful with a couple different things, primarily because I lacked the confidence. That's the thing for me. I know that has been one of my biggest vulnerabilities in terms of generating what I have the potential to generate. So the thing about her that I love, that I feel I now have permission to embody myself, is that she just very transparently talks about the multiple things that she has going on in her life. And I haven't gone far back in her YouTube feed, but I get the sense that everything ties back to some sort of business. So there is cohesion. It's just that she allows herself to talk about a variety of things. The settings that she sits in are a variety of places. She was out in the woods on some bouncy boots, which I mentioned in my video when I was outside earlier today. I really want these bouncy boots. I couldn't watch the video when she was talking, but like super engaging and just a day, like a moment in her life. So if you're out there trying to create a perfect setting or something like that, it's not necessary. What occurred to me, and I've heard people say this again and again and again, and there are so many things that I have been hearing over the years and like intellectually taking notes on, but it is dropping into my body like constantly. Like I'm like, oh, like that's what that means. So social media was created as a social platform. Now, it's really easy, I think, for those people who have just always naturally loved like small talk and chatter and like lots of information, and like the people who are super good at the parties and could make everybody feel good. And there are people who have like amazing skills around just being able to be in crowds of people and like handling the noise and handling all of the visual stimulation. Like, just for those of us who can remember what it was like to be just like on college campuses and in high school and at parties and with big families. If you have big families, there's always somebody that you know who's just good with everybody. Well, there's a world full of people who are just good with everybody, and social media makes perfect sense to them. Like it's just like ducks in water is what comes to mind. And then there are people, and again, I often think of a spectrum. So I'm offering one thing to think about and then another, but there's just this range that we all fall in between. So there are other people for whom all of that excitement and stimulation and like seeing 15 people walk by with drinks in their hands and all these different, colors in their clothing and all of this conversation around and like tuning in and tuning out and just feeling a crowd of people or feeling an individual walk by, or not being able to focus on a single conversation with the person or the group of people in front because there's people all around. People who feel very private or very shy, people who literally have difficulty speaking. Like it feels like effort to get volume and voice out of the body. There are people who feel this way, who just feel assaulted by just all of the noise of the world, all of the interaction of people. And now social media feels this way to a group of people. For those of us who are choosing to build something online or to create something online, interacting with these platforms is one of the things that we need. We need this tool. So we have to figure out how to become more comfortable in this space. Doesn't mean we have to be in this space all of the time. So if you're building a business for yourself, you are the one who decides how much time you spend online in your business. But something that somebody recently said to me it's new, like I'm hearing it in a new way for the first time, but just like we go to work, for those of us who have a job where we have to go in on somebody else's schedule, our business in the virtual space, it is our business. So we want to have hours of some kind where we're showing up every day, or if our business schedule is 3 days a week, we're showing up consistently those 3 days. We're just thinking of our online virtual digital space as a physical space where we are going in order to interact with our public, with our readers, with our community. And we need to have consistency there. So we build an energy with the people that we're wanting to serve, and they can engage with us because they know we'll be there. We'll be there regularly. I don't want to get into like days of the week and all that. You have to figure out what that looks like for you. But it is helping me to think of this space as an office space. I've had my computer, I've had back offices on certain businesses that I've held before. Blog platforms, they have their dashboards. Like, I get that concept, but when it was said to me in this way, I was like, okay. So it's okay for me. It's okay for me to show up and engage with social media on a regular basis, because also, I talk really fast when I'm excited. Also, there is a lot of judgment out in the population about how much time we spend on social media. And I know that I do this often, and I'm catching myself more because I'm becoming this person more. Again, when we sign up to build a business, to create an income that we are responsible for creating, we are required, as part of that agreement with ourselves, to start changing the way that we show up, which means we start changing the way we think. So I used to feel really curious, like genuine curiosity. I'm like, what are people posting like all the time? Like when you're walking through a store, like what can you possibly be posting? I mean, I understand that, people are maybe talking to someone and showing a video of what's on the shelf or whatever, or you're just bored, or you don't want to be bothered, so you're talking with someone. Like, I get all the reasons why we are attached to these little boxes. And I'm starting to understand that it really is our social system that we're bringing along. It's our parents, it's our lovers, it's our friends, it's our business partners. It's the world that we're talking to, and it's the people that are in our immediate communities, and then the circles of whatever interactions and groups we're involved with outside of that. It really is a tool. So I've noticed for myself that there has been a part of me that's been heavily identified with, I don't like social media, and I want nothing to do with it. And it's amusing is the word that comes to mind. I amuse myself often because I learned a long time ago never to say never. However, I'm learning that in a different way these days. I don't say never very often, but I'm learning that I say other things, judgments that, they show up in our lives in other ways. And it's like, do you really? Is that real? Are you really committed to that? Like, is that really a good commitment to, like, is that really serving you? That's the question. So what I'm trying to say is, if you find yourself being someone who's been really resistant to social media because of all of the because of how damaging it can be when misused, then just explore that for yourself for a while. It's not all bad and it's not all good. And we need to figure out what on the spectrum works for us and serves us and the people that we want to serve. So, I've covered a few things on my notes. I only had like 3 points on my notes. Okay, so yeah. These are platforms, and these platforms are our job. For those of us who are selling something or someone online, like a brand personality, coaching, counseling, mentoring practice, products, services. So it's okay. It's okay to go to work in the social media space. All right, I'll go backwards on my list. So I want to encourage you. I want you to go to one or two of your favorite creators online. Someone that you really get a lot of joy from, you get a lot of inspiration from. And I want you to go back in their feed. Now, it's not going to work if they've just started, but you can start paying attention to this now if they've just started. But go back into their feed and watch their evolution. So we I mean, it's not surprising that we really seem to think that things just happen for people, but people, a lot of trial and error. People had to figure things out. In this space, virtually, unfortunately, for those who like to keep things more private, like, we see our mistakes as we go. Whereas, in the old days in a brick and mortar, people could keep that more to themselves. The struggles of building a business, and only their closest friends and family would have known what it took to get them from point A to point B. But you can go through your feeds, and if somebody hasn't removed past content, like their evolutionary step from one place to another, you will be able to see how they grew. I want to make sure what I said was things came into focus for them too. They came into focus because they kept putting themselves out there and just experimenting and trying. Which brings me to the first thing that I wanted to say as a step, a place to start. I'm just going to look at my notes. So, practice putting your thoughts into the world. If you're not someone who's particularly like bullet point organized, that's okay. Start with a thought, get online, open the camera, and start speaking. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to stumble over your words. I was watching an ad, which is another thing I encourage you to do. If you have to advertise, pay attention to people's ads. It's highly educational. Usually we want to scroll past them, but if part of our business model is actually advertising, start paying attention to what people are doing out there. Some people are really creative. Just pay attention. You'll learn a lot. But this person was presenting a product. He's actually, I don't know, his ad shows up, it's shown up a couple times. But anyway, I don't remember what he's selling, so clearly I'm not his target audience, although this is the second time, because I noticed, I'm like, oh yeah, he does. He stumbles over a couple of words, but he still released that ad. And it's been running for a while, so it must be working for him because I've heard it before. I want everyone, including myself, to understand we are not going to be perfect. And these days, people are like, sensitivity levels are increasing in people. People are paying attention to when they don't feel resonant with something and when they do. And that may not be the word that people use. I don't vibe with that. Maybe or I don't like that. People are paying more attention. And part of that, now, if your people are perfect people, like if your audience is perfect, like they're just perfectly pulled together, and perfection is important to your audience, then yes, that is absolutely what you do. Like, that's what you do. Hopefully that's also who you are. Otherwise, like, they're gonna figure you out. Because I know there are some, like, just very elegantly, there are people who are perfect. I am not that person. Not that person. So treat your videos conversationally in the beginning. This is something I have heard people saying this over the years, and I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. And the more that I show up on camera, like, I really have fun showing up on camera. I've started taking notes. When I first started, like, maybe that's not true. Maybe when I first started on YouTube, maybe I did. But I'm not much of a note follower. But I've become more of one, just so that I don't ramble too bad, because I can go off on tangents like fireworks. But I enjoy it because I think I like to talk out loud and have people, like, hear what I have to say, and then hear what people have to say. In conversation one-on-one, before any of this world became a possibility, I am fascinated to talk with people and hear how people think. So for me, it's getting easier. What wasn't easy was having people looking back at me and like being visible to people in this way. Like for years, visibility was an issue, and that shut me down in a number of businesses that I created and then wasn't so successful in. It is hilarious to me that one of the models that I was most successful in was one where I had to be like in person with people, one-on-one, like on stage. And that's how I felt when I first started it. I felt like I was going on stage and I had to perform, and that was terrifying, but I got over it and quite successful. So if it serves you to treat it as a conversation, then do that. You're just talking to people. We are talking to people, and there are people who are not going to like it. They are just not going to like you. The world is full of people. There are people who are going to love you, and you're not going to know why. It's going to be like, wow. So, and then of course, the range of experiences in between that. And there are going to be things that you create that are not particularly useful or helpful to other people, but will be useful and helpful to you. I really feel like we're missing my hand motions here. It's happening at the bottom. But every time I step up to the camera, step up to the screen, and share what I'm thinking, first of all, I get some information about myself. I get some ideas about how to be more clear. I might get clarity on what it is I'm trying to express in one video, and then I can go and clarify in another. That's what happened with this. Now, I'm still, going off in different directions, but I have a better idea of what I'd like to say that would actually be useful to someone who needs to be able to come in and get the bullet points. So for a while, if we're starting something new, we may have to practice with organizing our thoughts. And for some of you, you'll be able to do that on a piece of paper. I have stacks of paper. I have journals, stacks of journals. I made this journal, by the way. I did not do the art. An artist did that for me, but anyway, stacks of books that I've written on. And I have to talk it out. That's my style. So that's what I wanted to share. I wanted to encourage you to just start practicing. Just put your ideas out there. Try to put a limiter on it. So I have gone way over, but try to put a limit, like 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. And go back through your favorite creators and see how they have progressed. It just helps you understand that they didn't start necessarily from the place that you found them, unless you found them when they were starting. They've come from experiences. They've probably come from coaching or classes that, self-development that they've been doing. I lost something that was in there. Okay, here it is. So something else that I want you to keep in mind is we can get really discouraged when people are not interacting with us. This woman that I was recently introduced to, I find her content to be incredibly helpful. And I was looking at the likes, and they're not as many as I think there should be. The views are pretty good, but people actually interacting, like, I'm like, come on, people, like. So I just want you to understand, even though people aren't giving you the feedback that what you're offering is helpful or changing their perspective or like putting a key in their energy field and turning it so that, suddenly they light up. People, not everyone, and I'm starting to understand that maybe not many people actually know to say, hey, you really helped me. That changed something for me. But just know it's happening out there. Like, even with this long video that I'm doing, somebody somewhere, me, is being helped by it. And just keep putting it out there. She's been putting things out for like at least 5 years now, I think. But anyway, just keep putting it out there. Keep putting it out there, and just know that, maybe in the beginning you're doing it for yourself. You're building your own muscle. And then eventually maybe several years down the road, but eventually it's going to catch on as you figure out what it is that you're offering out there, or it's just going to catch on, or it's not, and you'll move on to something else. But don't move on too quickly. Give yourself an actual opportunity to create some bones and structure for the thing that you have in this season of your life decided to commit yourself to. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave it. This has been super fun. I'm going to see if it actually, like how to get it to the next step. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.